The African American Legend series highlights the accomplishments of blacks in areas as varied as politics, sports, aviation, business, literature, and religion. We'll explore how African Americans have succeeded in areas where they'd been previously excluded because of segregation, racism, and lack of opportunity. I'm your host, Dr. Roscoe C. Brown, Jr., and with us today is Eugene Giscombe, real estate executive and big game hunter. Good to have you here, Gene.
Good. Thank you, Dr. Brown.
Now, for the audience who may not understand this term, big game hunting, what is big game hunting?
Well, big game hunting, I guess, is hunting animals larger than rabbits and squirrels. I mean, from deer all the way up to elephants, which I've been able to and successfully hunt over the last 50 years.
And you've been doing this all over the world.
Yes, I've hunted on 6 continents and all of Canada and most of North America and South America also.
Well, it's not politically correct to talk about hunting and shooting animals, particularly with the people who want to stop having fur coats. But big game hunting is something that goes back to time immemorial. Man has always done this. You are not time immemorial, even though you've been doing this for 50 years. Tell the audience, tell me how you got into this. So this is something that's very unusual for African Americans. So how'd you get into this?
Well, let me just say this. I grew up in Harlem in the early 40s, and as a young child, I had a wanderlust. You know, we played stickball and ring-a-levio and all the different
ring-a-levio. Tell people about ring-a-levio. That's an old city game. What's ring-a-levio?
Do I have to get into it now?
Yeah, you chase people around. Okay, now what street did you live on in Harlem?
I lived in Harlem River Projects, 151st Street and 7th Avenue.
One of the first projects in this entire country.
That's correct.
That's right.
That's correct. And it was a good project. It was before projects got the reputation that they got years later. We had strict management, and everyone watched out for everyone else, and everyone made sure that everyone else kept the projects to a high standard of cleanliness and safety, and it really earned quite a reputation back in those days. So I was proud to grow up in Harlem, proud to be associated with that projects. But getting on to how I got to like hunting, I guess going to Camp Minnesink, which was run by the New York Mission Society, Camp Walk Hill, being a Boy Scout, camping over in Jersey, which was all woods.
Alpine.
Yeah. That coupled with a wanderlust that I had to wanting to go and see new places and new things, got me involved in a lot of reading, Jack London, Hemingway, where I spent a lot of my youth daydreaming about places that were foreign and exotic, and in that mix there was hunting involved. I then went on to junior high school, Olinville Junior High School in the Northeast Bronx, and I met a young man and befriended by the name of Billy Palulia. His father was a hunter. We became friends. The idea of hunting and nature and the wanting to be around animals more or less coalesced. And I then started to talk to my parents about when I graduated junior high, I wanted my first rifle as a gift.
Yeah, but before then, you were telling me that your father had a group of African-American equestrians.
Right.
They used to ride in Forest Hills. Tell us about that.
Well, Dad was an athlete. He was a professional roller skater. He did a lot of things in Harlem, and one of the things, he was an equestrian, and he started a club, horseback riding club of black males and females called the Equestrians. And every Sunday they would go out to Forest Hills and ride horseback, English saddle, the long boots, the jatpas, the whole English bit, so to speak. And I was their mascot. And at 5 years old, I was on a full-grown horse learning how to ride by myself. I mean, of course, Dad helped me and trained me, but I had to handle that horse by myself at 5 years old. And so that got me also around animals at a young age, so that I wasn't like most city children who, not being around animals, are afraid of animals. They have a fear of something they don't know. I got an early start with being around animals, and so that made it a lot easier.
It's very interesting. Many people are unaware of the fact that the greatest jockeys in horse racing were African Americans.
I've heard that, yes.
Bill Roden, in his recent book, $40 Million Slaves, talked about how they changed the rules so that African Americans were not hired as jockeys. And now when you talk to a kid about African American jockeys, were they there? And this is really the beauty and the wonder of studying and experiencing African American histories. We know what we've done, we know where we've been, we know how things have changed. And in your instance, you are making a positive change by saying, look, here's a field that African Americans haven't really done much about, and you're doing it. Now, tell me, where have you hunted, and what have you hunted?
Well, I've been on 15 African safaris dating back from 1991. I've hunted in central China. I've hunted in eastern Russia. I've hunted in Turkey. I've hunted in Hungary. I've hunted in Argentina. I've hunted in Mexico. I've hunted up at the North Pole. I've hunted in...
Now tell me,
yes,
you don't speak all those languages. How do you do that?
No, but we hire guides, and they have...
we? Who's the we?
Myself and whoever I'm hunting with, or myself and the hunting company that I hire to conduct my hunt, to hire the guides and all of the support staff that's required once I get to camp and to help.
What is the
conduct
support
my hunt.
staff?
Well, the support staff can be bush pilots to bring you into the bush on small planes. They're guides, they're interpreters, cooks, skinners, people that maintain the camp, sometimes people that operate boats, if you have to use boats, like when I'm hunting up in the glacier areas of northern Canada.
Well, this is a collective thing. This is a pretty expensive operation. I imagine several people pool their resources to do this.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
But you go out and you hire a pilot and a skinner. Is it 2 people, 5 people?
Well, I hire what they call an outfitter, and the outfitter secures my licenses and my permits. He hires the infrastructure, the pilots, the flying service, the guides, the pack string of horses, this sort of thing, that help me conduct my hunt wherever I go.
Now, do you take pictures of these hunts?
Yes, yes, I do. Sometimes more pictures than I like to talk about. I just came back from Tanzania after spending 3 weeks in August of this year, and I must have taken 200 or 300 photos. You know, but I also keep a diary of every day's experiences, and now I'm gathering those diaries together to write a book.
It's a publication.
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah.
Now, what kind of game have you hunted? What are some of the species?
Well, I've successfully taken the Africa's big 5 most dangerous animals, which is the elephant, the rhinoceros, the Cape buffalo, the lion, and the leopard.
No tigers?
No, you can't. You don't hunt tigers. There are only 500 tigers left, and they're endangered species, right?
Only 500 in the world?
In the world, right.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, why are they becoming extinct?
Well, like most other animals, the unchecked population growth and the burning of forest for firewood where they live, the stripping of the environment for commercial purposes, and basically throughout the world, this is the greatest threat to animal populations. It happened in Europe. It happened in America until Teddy Roosevelt, our president, formulated both the game parks and the conservation ethic to bring game laws into place and to persecute those that were hunting on a commercial basis.
Yeah, the bisons were about to be extinct, but now I understand the bison population is increasing because of that.
Well, not only the bison, the pronghorn antelope, the white-tailed deer at the turn of the century was almost extinct, the Rocky Mountain elk, a lot of the sheep, wild sheep species, the wild turkey, they've all seen resurgence back after the low levels that market hunting created at the turn of the century. And through the monies of sportsmen and conservationists and the Pittman Act, which is a tax on the sale of sporting goods that goes into funding conservation programs and restoration programs. We as hunters and our organized organizations have helped through our dollars bring back a lot of these species that were about to become extinct.
You make a good point, but why is it that so many people in America in particular are against hunting generically? Is there a particular reason for that? Because what you describe indicates a desire to maintain the species, maintain the environment. What is really the reason why many people are not supportive of hunting?
Well, I think, I don't have all of the answers, but I noticed one thing in my travels, that as people move to the urban areas, they have a disconnect from their heritage. The people that grow up in rural areas don't feel the way the people against hunting as much as those who live in the urban areas. Not being around nature, not being around animals, not seeing how nature interacts. You know, there's nothing new about killing, and to deny killing is to deny existence. Mm-hmm. Everything must live off of something else. Mm-hmm. Our anti-hunters feel that we should be vegetarians, but what they don't look at is that the plants that they eat are living organisms. And because they don't have Bambi eyes and scream when they're yanked out of the ground, they are still being killed for someone else to consume. So it's and the young are very idealistic. They look for causes, which anti-hunting
Well, not only that,
is a
they
part
identify
of.
with animals as a being.
Well, that is the greatest, I would say, fraud that was ever perpetrated. And that's the gentleman, I don't know whether I should call his name, but he made a living off of movies, making animals with human traits. And I guess over the generations, the Bambis and the Lion Kings became synonymous with Homo sapiens, human beings, all right? And so therefore, I guess if you're going to look toward the health of a human being and the welfare of a human being, so would you for animals. I have no problem with that, but it's not reality. You know, the lion that they make so proud and so heroic, I've hunted them successfully on 3 occasions, and I've got to know a little bit about them. And they're not very noble animals.
Well, there is in nature this cycle of everything relates one to the other.
Correct.
The animal world, the plant world, the water world, etc. It's a little bit sophisticated, and it's hard for us who may not be close to nature to totally understand that. But tell us a little about what you've learned about lions. You've hunted lions. I guess you have some lion skins in your home, etc. Tell us a little about lions.
Lions are highly prolific animals. Lions are the only cats that live in groups. Normally those groups are led by the elder female. They're protected by 1 to 2 to 3 male lions. Those lions that are pride males only last in their position an average of 1.5 to 2.5 years.
What happens? They get killed?
They're driven out by younger males. And when the younger males kill or drive out the male that's in charge, the first thing they do is kill all of the smaller cubs. Reason? I don't know. It's explained by biologists. I don't know how true it is. That somewhere in the scheme of things, a lion knows, supposedly, that it's not going to be around very, very long. And as soon as they kill the cubs, the females come back into heat. It takes a lion 2.5 years to mature, so therefore they can't wait for the maturization of the previous lion's offspring. Lions are opportunists in the respect that they will kill even when they're not hungry. They will kill anything that they care to.
Will they kill a human?
They, you know, they don't talk about it because it would hurt the tourist trade, but 200 documented yearly, 200 Africans, excuse me, are killed in the spring by killed and eaten by lions every year, and some tourists, but they don't. That doesn't come out. An animal that starts to feed on its prey before it has killed it. I can't really see that that's a noble animal. To me, a noble animal will be something like a leopard.
Now, how do you go about hunting a lion? How do you do that?
Well, it's several ways. In the areas in the Kalahari and Botswana where it's more desert, we drive along trails until we can find water holes, and we look for areas where lions' prints are. The lions have come and drunk the night before. And the African trackers can pretty much look at a track and tell how old it is. And they can tell whether it's a male by the size. And then you begin to walk, and you walk, and you walk.
Well,
and you
miles?
Walk. Miles.
But, and then finally you catch them, find them. How do you do that?
Normally you come up on them, you know, when it gets very hot around mid-morning, 11 o'clock, they'll find some place to lie down under a tree to sleep. You know, they've fed the night before and they're tired. And when you come up on them, you have to look them over and assess them to see if they're the quality that you're looking for. Meaning, if it's a male or a female, the size of the mane, whether it's a mature animal or an immature animal. And most cases, more cases than not, you pass because it's not what you want, and you'll start again. I think my second lion took 14 days of hunting daily, and I'd see him sometimes, some days, and other days I wouldn't, but I knew where he,
you knew where he was.
I knew the vicinity, yes, right.
Now, for 14 days, what else do you hunt other animals during that period?
Oh, you're hunting other animals.
What other animals do you hunt?
Well, you hunt bait animals, zebra, Cape buffalo, warthog, and a variety of antelopes that maybe you haven't hunted before. And then you have to replenish sometimes what we call baits. We do shoot animals and use the meat to attract lions. That's another way of hunting.
Now, after you've killed these animals, you skin them on the spot and then send the skins home, or what do you do with them? Or
well, we bring them, most of the animals, with the exception of the predators, we eat. When I shot my elephant, we fed an entire village.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, how many tons was this elephant?
I think it was 17,000 pounds.
Yeah, it's almost a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and you
quite a bit.
Now,
6 tons.
So you fed this village. Okay?
Right.
Now,
the tusk I brought back as trophies, and the skinned feet we made footstools out of, and I have the tan hide. And one day maybe I'll make some golf bags or some travel luggage with it.
Now, when you come home, you display them in your home, or you have a museum, or what? Or your home is a museum?
Yeah, it's getting to be that way. We have over 175 animals mounted at home now, and we've completely run out of room. But they're, you know, we have them mounted. We use a great taxidermist, Frank Zitz, and his museum quality work. And you know, when you come into my house, I guess a lot of people are taken back, especially the workmen that come up to do work, because they'll open the door and there's 2 full-size 400-pound lions lying right there at the couch looking at you, and a couple of polar bear in the background. But you know, it's nice, and I relive my hunts through looking at them.
Yeah, I was thinking about the fellow in Harlem who was keeping a tiger in his apartment.
Well.
And the people, that seemed really bizarre.
I guess it was. Mine don't bite.
Yours don't bite. I see. Now, how do you manage to merge all of this traveling with your extensive real estate business? How do you do this?
Well, it's not easy, but you know, my trips, especially, you know, out of the U.S. Are planned a year to 2 years in advance, so that I can fit my business schedule around them. If I know next year I'm going to Ethiopia to hunt mountain Nyala, the last of the spiral-horned antelopes, of which there are 9. And
you are going next year?
Yes, right. I've been booked for a year and a half now. So
really? Now, when you say book for a year and a half, you have to contract with an agent who will help you to get this team.
Yeah.
And now you say these are in the mountains?
Yeah, yeah. This is supply and demand. In other words, you know, if I want to hunt an animal, there are only so many permits worldwide annually. Okay? And there may be 6 permits that this one operator may have. And
now, why is that? They want to preserve the animals?
You have to preserve the animals. All of the game departments throughout the world conduct annual surveys, aerial surveys, and other ways of surveying to determine the number of animals in a certain species, all right, and the number of shootable males in a certain species. And through that, they come up with the level or the number of any particular male in a particular species that can be hunted. That way, the animal is a renewable resource. You don't do anything to really hurt its population and its numbers. And therefore, it becomes very expensive because there are hunters all over the world, a lot of people with a lot more means than I have, that want to purchase the rights to hunt in far off places for very exotic animals. So therefore, you wind up getting in line sometimes. I know when polar bear hunting became legal in Canada 7 or 8 years ago, well, I won't say legal, it was legal, but when the U.S. Fish and Wildlife allowed importing of polar bear trophies into the States, I immediately booked a hunt, and the next day I received an email back telling me that, fine, we're going to accept your deposit, but you're number 106 on the list. And with 20 permits, I would have had to wait 5 or 6 years.
Well, you did get there.
Yeah, I had to go 3 times, but I did get my polar bear, you know. Yeah, that's quite a story.
Now, you're very unusual in that this is something that most people in America don't do. There are very few other African Americans. How many African Americans have you run into in your big game exploits?
Not very many, just a handful, really.
Where are they from?
I met a couple of people in an airport that were coming from California. There was a fellow, I never met him, but he was a black industrialist out of Detroit, I believe, who was quite a hunter. And but not many. And you know, it's amazing because blacks in the South have been hunters historically.
For years.
For years.
That's the way they ate during slavery and right afterwards.
Right. But I guess maybe as their children migrated north, there wasn't the need probably or the means to go out and hunt. Their direction was toward education and jobs and the different things that, you know, were done in the big cities.
But as I hear you talk, your story isn't about just the big trophies and the places you've been. It's about respect for nature and the interaction with the various forces of nature. That's a fairly sophisticated concept. When you grow up in a rural area or you grow up in the outdoors, you sort of learn this, just like some of us learn music because we're around music all the time. What do you do in the area of education? I personally was a member of the board of what used to be the Bronx Zoo, the Wildlife Conservation Society, which is the reason why I'm so interested in it. What do you do to help our people, or people in general, understand more about the interaction of nature?
Okay, well, I'm a past president of the New York Tri-State Chapter of Safari Club International. Safari Club International is an international organization. It's about 35 years old, I believe. They're mostly white, middle class to upper class sportsmen and women. During my tenure as, by the way, the only black president in the history of the club, and their clubbing, they have chapters throughout the world, I ensured that our chapter donated money to what we call the American Wilderness Leadership School. And it's in Wyoming, Jackson, Wyoming. And what they do is underwrite the airfare for students and teachers from urban areas to go to this Wilderness Leadership School. And it teaches ecology, it teaches conservation, it teaches where hunting fits in the scheme overall. And I did when I was there, black teachers and black students to be a part of this, so that they could come back to their urban areas and they could teach and talk about those areas of ecology and conservation that they would have learned on a first-hand basis in that sort of a setting.
Of course, what you've told us today is that the interaction in nature is such that every species needs to be respected, and in some ways the balance, life and death cycles go together.
Correct.
And I think for African Americans it's important for us to understand this, because we live in a world that's very complicated and sometimes we oversimplify it. I want to thank Eugene Giscombe, real estate executive and big game hunter, for being with us on today's African American Legends.